Chapter 4. Silver. Hispaniola was a very good ship, and the captain did his job well. The crew looked happy, but it was easy to see that they didn't like the captain very much. They all liked Long John, and they treated Tim like the second captain. I became really good friends with him too. I often went to sit with him in the kitchen, and we laughed at his old parrot, Captain Flint. "I call her Captain Flint," he said, "after the famous pirate. She is probably 200 years old now. She has sailed with many pirates in her life." And you could hear it too. This parrot really knew how to swear. The squire made sure that all the men were happy and in good health. There was always lots of food and drink for everyone. It was also his idea to have a big barrel with apples for everyone to take one whenever they liked. And it was this apple barrel that saved our lives. It was the night we were expecting to see the treasure island. I was going to bed when I thought I would like an apple. I went to the apple barrel and put my hand into it. But there were only a few left at the bottom, and I had to jump inside to get one. I ate my apple there and fell asleep. I woke up when somebody sat beside the barrel and put his elbow on it. The man started to speak, and I recognized Silver's voice. "No, I wasn't the captain," he said. "Flint was the captain. I lost my leg in one of the battles, and old Pule lost his eyes. But I got 2,000, and now it's all safe in the bank." "But what if you die on this voyage?" asked another voice, which I recognized as the youngest man on board. "We pirates have to take the risk. Some of us have to die, but the ones that get home live like kings, with pockets full of pounds, not pennies. But when I get back from this voyage, I'll be a gentleman. But I started just like you, a clever young seaman before the mast." "Well, I tell you now," said the young man, "I didn't like this job until I had a conversation with you, Long John, but I'm with you now." I understood that Silver had just made a pirate of an honest man. Perhaps he was even the last one. Maybe all the men were pirates now. Then I heard a third man sit down. "Deck is with us," said Silver. "Good. So when we can finish with Smollett and the others?" asked Israel Hands. "Captain Smollett is a good sailor. I would prefer to sail with him halfway home before killing him. But I know the men won't wait that long. We'll kill him on the island. Now, Dick, can you get me an apple?" You can't imagine my horror when I heard that. "Don't eat apples, John," said Israel Hands. "Let's have some rum." To this they all agreed and went to the kitchen, but I was still too afraid to get out of the barrel. And then someone shouted, "Land!" and I heard a great rush of feet across the deck. I quickly got out of the barrel and went quickly to Dr. Livesey. While everyone was looking at the hills of the island on the horizon, I whispered into the doctor's ear. "Doctor, ask the captain and the squire into the cabin. I have terrible news." Half an hour later, they were all listening to my story in complete silence. "Well, Captain Smollett," said the squire when I finished, "I was wrong and you were right." "That's because of Silver," said the doctor. "He's a very clever man." "We must now make a plan to save our lives," said the captain. "We don't know yet who is honest and who is our enemy. We should wait until we know our men better, and only then attack the pirates." The next morning we had to pull the ship around the island to a safe place to drop the anchor. It was hot, and the task was difficult. When we finally dropped the anchor, all the men were tired and irritated. "If I give them another order," the captain finally said, "there will be mutiny. They all want to go to the island. They probably think they can find the treasure without the map. There is only one man who can save us now." "And who is that?" asked the squire. "Silver," said the captain. "Let's take the men to the island for the afternoon. If anything happens, we'll have the ship. But I think that he'll explain his plan to them and bring them back in the evening, calm as sheep. Still, we must have our pistols on us at all times." When the captain told the men they could have the afternoon on the island, they all looked much happier. They were singing as they started to get the little boats ready, and then I had one of my mad ideas. I decided to go to the island with them. I slipped into one of the boats unseen and hid under a sheet. Our boat reached the beach first. I got out and started to run. "Jem! Jem! Wait!" Silver shouted after me, but I didn't wait for him. I ran as fast as I could towards the trees. I went across some wet ground and got to some thick bushes where I was safe to stop. Just then I heard two voices. I hid behind a tree and listened. It was Silver and another man. "I'm telling you this because you're my friend, Tom." "Silver," said Tom, "you're old and people say you have money. Why can't you live an honest life?" Suddenly there was the sound of a pistol in the distance and a loud scream. "What was that?" asked Tom. "That was probably Alan," answered Silver calmly. "Alan?" cried Tom. "A true and honest seaman? John Silver, you were my friend for a long time, but you're not my friend any more. You've killed Alan, haven't you? Kill me too if you can." And the brave seaman turned around and started walking back to the beach. That moment Silver took his wooden crutch and threw it at Tom. It hit the poor man between the shoulders and he fell to the ground. Silver took out his knife and, jumping on his one leg like a monkey, was on top of Tom within a second. Oh, I felt sick and couldn't look at it. When I looked again, Silver was standing with his crutch under his arm and he was cleaning his knife with some grass. As silently as I could, I began to move away. But when I was sure he couldn't hear any more, I started to run faster than I had ever run before. But soon I ran into new danger. Chapter 5. The Man of the Island. Running down the hill, I heard small stones falling behind the trees. I stopped to look around and saw somebody jumping from behind a tree. At first I thought it was an animal, but then I saw it was a man. I was terrified, and suddenly I remembered all that I had ever heard about cannibals. But then I remembered I had a gun on me, and felt a little braver. "Who are you?" I asked. "Ben Gunn," he said in a strange voice. "I'm poor Ben Gunn. I haven't spoken to anyone for 3 years." I saw he was a white man, but his face had been browned by the sun. His clothes were made from old ship's canvas and old sea cloth. 3 years?" I cried. "Were you shipwrecked?" "No, my friend," said he. "Marooned." I knew the word, and I knew it was a cruel punishment used by pirates to leave a man alone on a desert island with only a gun and some powder. 3 years, he said. "I've lived on goats and berries. I'd give anything for some good English cheese. You don't have a piece of cheese on you, do you? I've dreamed of cheese for many nights." "If I can get on board again, you'll have as much cheese as you like." And who can stop you?" he asked. "Not you, I know," I replied. "Right you are," he cried. "And what's your name?" "Jim," I said. "Now, Jim," he said in a whisper, "listen to me, Jim. I'm rich, and I'll make you rich too. But tell me the truth now, Jim. This isn't Flint's ship, is it?" "No," I said. "Flint's dead, but there are some of Flint's men on board, which is very bad for us." "Not the man with the one leg?" he asked. Silver? I asked. Yes, that was his name, he said. He's the cook, and the pirate's leader too. I decided to tell him the story of our voyage on Hispaniola. He listened to my every word and said, "You're a good boy, Jim, and you're in trouble. Well, Ben Gunn will help you," he said. "Do you think your squire will treat me kind if I help you? Will he take me on board with you?" "I'm sure he will. The squire is a gentleman," I said. "Besides, if we leave the pirates here, we will need men on board anyway." "True," said Ben. "Now I'll tell you my story. I was on Flint's ship when he buried the treasure on the island. He went to the island in a small boat with 6 other men, 6 strong seamen. The rest of us stayed on board. A week later, he came back alone. He had killed the 6 men himself. We never knew how he did that. Anyway, 3 years ago, I was on another ship with different people. One day, I saw the island. 'Boys,' I said, 'let's land and find Flint's treasure.' We were looking for it for 12 days, and we didn't find it. Then the men got angrier and angrier, and eventually went on board without me. They left me a pistol, some powder, and a spade. 'You can stay here and find Flint's money for yourself,' they said. And it's 3 years now, but I had things to do, I had," he said, smiling at me. "Now, you go to your squire, Jim, and tell him Ben Gunn is a good man." "I will," said I. "But how will I get on board?" "I have a little boat which I made. It's under the White Rock. We can try and get on board when it's dark." Just then, we heard the sound of the ship's big gun. "Let's go!" I cried. "They've started to fight." We ran in the direction of the fighting, and after a few minutes we saw a big, strong wooden house with the English flag flying over it. "Your friends are there," said Ben Gunn. "Oh, the pirates," said I. "No," said Ben. "Silver would fly the Jolly Roger, the pirates' flag. There was probably a fight, and your friends won. And now they're in this old house that Flint made a long time ago." "Let's go there, then," said I. "I won't, until you ask your squire to promise that he will help Ben Gunn." At that moment, the ship gun fired, and Ben and me ran off in 2 different directions. I ran to the beach, and there I saw the Jolly Roger flying over the Hispaniola. Then I saw the pirates breaking up the captain's little boat. When it got dark and the ship's cannon stopped firing, I went back to the wooden house and was welcomed by my friends. They gave me supper, and Dr. Livesey told me their story. When they saw I had gone with the pirates, they were worried and decided to look for me. "I went with Hunter," said the doctor, "and when we saw this house, we thought that it would be a good place to defend ourselves against the pirates. We needed just food and guns. So we went back on board, took 1 more boat and put the food, guns and medicine chest in it. But when the pirates saw us returning to the beach, they started firing at us." "Yes, I heard that," I said. "They sank the boat with food and guns, but we got to the house and locked ourselves in. There was a fight. We killed 2 of them, but we lost poor Tom Redruth." Then I told them my story, and soon after I was fast asleep. Early the next day, I was woken up by men shouting. "Flag of truce!" I heard someone say. "Who goes? Stand or we fire!" hailed the captain. "And what do you want with your flag of truce?" "Captain Silver, sir, wants to talk about peace," I heard one of the pirates say. "Captain Silver?" asked Captain Smollett. "And who is he?" "Me, sir," answered Long John. "The poor men chose me as their captain after you left the ship. We want peace now, but on our conditions. Can I come inside?" "No," said Captain Smollett. "If you were an honest man, you would be inside now, but we can talk," he added. "One of you was very quick with a knife last night. My men got really frightened. Maybe I was frightened too. Maybe that's why I'm here." Captain Smollett nodded as if he understood, but he really didn't know what Silver was talking about. But I thought perhaps Ben Gunn had visited the pirates at night. "Our point is," Silver went on, "we want the treasure, and we'll have it. Now, if you give us the map, we'll save your lives. Then you can go on board with us and stay here on the island." "Now, you listen to me," said the captain. "If you come here one by one, without guns, I'll take you home for a fair trial. If you say no, next time I see you, I'll kill you without warning." "Before 1 hour is up," cried Silver as he turned around in anger, "I'll break your wooden house to pieces, and those that die will be the lucky ones." Chapter 6. My Sea Adventure. As soon as Silver disappeared, we started getting ready for the battle. The captain placed us strategically around the house and told us to shoot if we see anything strange. Half an hour later, Joyce saw the first pirate and the battle began. We saw 7 pirates running towards the house. We all fired, and 3 of them fell. The other 4 got into the house and started shooting at us. There was a thick cloud of smoke, and it was difficult to see anything. In the end, victory was ours, but we had lost the squire's old servant Joyce, and Captain Smollett was badly wounded. 5 killed, said the captain, and counted the pirates from memory. "Now that's better," he said. 8 of them and 5 of us. At the beginning there were 7 of us and 19 of them. The pirates didn't come back, but the house looked terrible. There was blood and dead bodies everywhere. Suddenly, I got another of my mad ideas. I wanted to get away. I knew it was wrong to leave my friends, but I thought if I could find Ben Gunn's boat, it might come in useful later. So I took some bread and 2 pistols, and when no one was looking, I silently left and ran to the beach. It was easy to find the white rock that Ben told me about. I also found his boat. It was the smallest boat I had ever seen. It was getting dark when I got into it, and I tried to go in the direction of the Hispaniola. I wanted to cut the ship off its anchor. It felt like a good idea. The pirates would lose their ship, and I knew that Mr. Blandley, the squire's friend from Bristol, would send another ship to help us if we didn't come back home on time. So off I went. Steering Ben Gunn's boat was very difficult, but I was lucky because the sea was taking me in the right direction even if I didn't do anything. Still, it took me hours to get to the right place, and it was in the middle of the night when I finally cut the Hispaniola loose. I was very proud of myself and wanted to go back and tell my friends all about it, but, to my horror, I found out that I couldn't go back. Whatever I did, the sea was moving the boat in the opposite direction. I was fighting the current for hours, but then I gave up. I was very tired and fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already hot. I looked around and saw the Hispaniola on the horizon. She looked very strange, as if no one was controlling her. She moved around without any direction. I thought that maybe no one was on her. If so, maybe I could get on board and sail her to another beach where the pirates wouldn't be able to find her. Then we would have the ship. That sounded like another good idea. I used all my strength to row in the ship's direction. Once again, the sea was helping me a lot. After a couple of hours, I got very close to the Hispaniola. I was watching her carefully, and just at the right moment, I got hold of the anchor rope hanging down from the side of the ship and climbed in. Just then, the Hispaniola changed direction, and I heard her hitting Gunn's boat and sinking it. Now there was no way back for me. I had to get control of the ship. When I climbed on deck, I saw many empty rum bottles rolling from one side of the ship to the other. There were also 2 people lying on the deck, both covered in blood. One of them was the second most dangerous pirate after Silver, Israel Hands. I was sure they had been drinking all night and had killed each other. But then Israel Hands moved, opened his eyes and whispered, "Rum." His face was a picture of pain. "I can't move." "Mr. Hands, I've come to take control of this ship, and so from this moment I am your captain," I said. "I see, Captain Hawkins," said he with an ugly smile. "I guess you would like to get to some beach to land, right? And you might need old Israel Hands, right?" "Let's talk, then," said I. "This man O'Brien," he pointed to the other man, "is dead now, but last night he cut my leg, and I can't move now. So, if you bring me food and drink, and put some bandage on my poor leg, I'll tell you how to sail this ship. That's fair, isn't it, Captain?" "It is," I said, and went to the kitchen. But I didn't believe all that he said, so I hid behind the door and watched him. As soon as he thought I was in the kitchen, he moved towards the dead man and took a large knife out of his hand and hid it under his own coat. Then he went back to where he had been lying before. I could see he was in pain, but he was able to move, and he wanted to kill me. "But he won't attack me before we land," I thought to myself, and touched the 2 pistols in my pocket. Now he needs me to sail the ship for him. I was right. Hands was one of the best teachers of sailing I could have had. Thanks to his directions, I was sailing the Hispaniola like an old sea dog. I was really enjoying myself, and sometimes I forgot about the danger I was in. We soon found a safe place on another beach, and decided to land there. Suddenly, I heard something moving behind me. I turned around. It was Israel Hands jumping towards me with his big knife. I took out one of the pistols and tried to shoot, but it didn't fire. It was wet. I panicked, and then I instinctively ran in the direction of the mast and started climbing up the sails. Hands was all in pain, but didn't give up and started climbing behind me. But I was quicker. When I was high enough, I reloaded my other pistol and turned around, pointing it at the pirate. "Stop!" I shouted, "or I'll kill you!" When he saw the pistol, Hans' face changed. "Let's talk about peace, Captain Hawkins," he said with a painful smile. "Why don't we—" And in the middle of the sentence, he threw the knife at me. It went through my shoulder and pinned me to the mast. At the same moment, I fired my pistol, and a second later I saw it falling down into the sea. But with it fell Israel Hands. I had won. Chapter 7. The End of the Adventure. The knife fell out of my shoulder, and I saw that the wound wasn't bad. I bandaged it up, and still in pain, I made sure the ship was safely landed. I threw the dead O'Brien overboard and climbed out myself. Then I ran towards the wooden house, but it was far away, so when I reached it, it was already late at night. As I came nearer, I saw that everyone inside was asleep. That seemed strange, so I decided to go very silently inside to check what was happening. But the moment I went in, I heard a loud voice of Silver's old parrot shouting, "Pieces of 8! Pieces of 8!" And at that moment, someone grabbed my arm, and I heard Silver's voice. "Who's that? Dead! Bring a torch!" The pirates were in the house. But what about my friends? Were they all dead? "So, here's Jim Hawkins, dropped in like, eh?" said Silver as he took the torch from Dick. "Where are my friends?" I asked and tried to look brave. "Yesterday the doctor came to our camp to speak about peace, as the ship had gone. So we talked, and we have the house now. I cut off the anchor of the Hispaniola, and I killed the man aboard her, and then I sailed her to a place where you'll never find her. I shouted. "You can kill me now and you'll never go back home, or you'll help me and when we get home I'll save you in court." Just then one of the pirates jumped towards me with a knife. "Stop it, Tom," said Silver. "We're not going to kill this boy." Tom Morgan stepped back angrily. "Let's go outside, man," he said to the other pirates, and they followed him outside the house. "They want to kill you, Jem," said Silver when they had left, "and they're angry with me too. Now that the ship's gone, it's all bad. The doctor gave me the map, but I don't understand why. I think it's bad too." I couldn't understand why either. "But I'll save you now, Jem," Silver went on, "if you promise to save me later in court." "I promise," said I, and at that moment Tom Morgan came back inside and gave Silver a piece of paper. "A black spot," said Silver. "You idiots! You don't want me to be your captain. Now look what I've got here." And he took out Flint's map from his pocket. "Without this boy and his ship, it's all useless, but with him we can start the adventure." The moment the pirates saw the map, their faces changed. Silver was the captain again, and I was safe. When it got light, I saw Dr. Limesley coming up to the wooden house. As part of the peace conditions, he brought some medicine for the pirates. "Hello, Doctor. We have a surprise for you," Silver shouted. "Little Hawkins here." "I want to speak to Jim alone," the doctor said after he had seen his patients. Before the other pirates managed to say a word, Silver said, "I agree," and then turned to his men and said, "And you'll remember who your captain is and keep silent." I went outside with the doctor and told him all about the ship and Israel Hands. Then Silver came up to us. "What's the business with the map, Doctor?" he asked. "I can't tell you much," said the doctor, "but if I could, I would. I will promise you this, though. If we ever get out of this alive, I'll do my best to save you." When he heard this, Silver looked much more optimistic. "We're going to find the treasure today." "Be careful," said the doctor. "You and Jim keep together, and shout when you need help." After the doctor had gone, the pirates started getting ready for the treasure hunt. They were all singing and laughing when we finally left the house behind us. But this soon changed. We had been walking for half an hour when suddenly one of the pirates screamed in a terrible voice. We all ran up to him to see what had happened. There was a human skeleton lying on the grass. All the pirates fell silent. "Wait," said Silver. "These bones are not in a natural position." He looked at the map again and at his compass. Then he said, "These bones are telling us where to go. That's Flint's joke." None of us thought it was very funny, and the pirates followed Silver in silence. Another half an hour passed, and we heard a high, trembling voice singing among the trees in the distance. 15 men on a dead man's chest." "It's Flint's ghost!" shouted the pirates in panic. "By thunder!" shouted Silver. "I was not afraid of Flint when he was alive, and I'm not afraid of his ghost either. I'm looking for the treasure, and I'll find it. And you can go with me or stay here." And so the pirates started climbing again. It took us the whole day to find the point marked on the map with a big red cross, but when we finally found it, it turned out that there was no treasure there, only a deep hole in the ground. "There's nothing here," shouted the pirates. "John Silver, you've cheated us. You've known all along that there was no treasure here." And they started moving towards me and Silver. Then suddenly guns fired from behind the trees. It was my friends. They had come to help us. The battle began. An hour later, 3 of the pirates had managed to run away. All of the others were dead in the hole where the treasure once was. Not long after, Both me and Silver were safe up on the hill in Ben Gunn's cave. It was Ben who had sung among the trees and frightened the pirates to delay them so the others could get into place in time for the attack. For 3 years he had been looking for Flint's treasure, and he had found it 3 months before we came to the island. He moved it to his cave, which was now full of gold pieces. It took us all a week to move it secretly on board the Hispaniola, and then with both Ben Gunn and Silver on board, we set off on a short journey to the nearest port in Africa. There we wanted to find a new crew for the voyage back home. You wouldn't believe how happy I was to see the last of the treasure island on the horizon, with the 3 pirates marooned on its shore. Silver disappeared the night we reached the African port. The next day Ben Gunn admitted that he had helped him and had given him some money. We have heard no more of him. We had a good voyage home, but none of us wants to go back to the treasure island again. I still sometimes have bad dreams about it, and I wake up with the sound of that old pirate song in my head. 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson.